So we're here in one of the greatest cities in the world. Yes, Berlin. We absolutely love it here. And look who we're coming to visit. If there's one name in microphones that every microphone company will admit is the greatest microphones ever made, the ones that are probably the most, not probably, what am I talking about? The definitely most copied microphones of all time, it would be this company, Neumann. So we're here. Let's press the buzzer and go in. Echo.
Hey.
Hey.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Lovely to be here.
Yeah, welcome to the headquarters.
Oh, thank you. This is exciting.
Yes, same here. Same
MC48, first thing we see.
Yeah.
We know it very well.
That's good, yeah. We know you know. Great. No, we just have it here to illustrate how it's working with an iDevice.
Nice.
That it's really easy to use it. It doesn't need to be in a larger rig, and it's pretty mobile. It has a power bank here powering it. So it's really something that is delivering the reference quality on the go if you need that.
Amazing.
Right? Yeah. So
yeah, the merging guys are very talented.
Is it your first time to the headquarters?
Yes, first time ever. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, this is very exciting.
So yeah, we have a bit of time to give you the tour, the full thing.
I know. I'm looking at. I'm over here. You know, it's all microphones. It's all like. This is the like my wife will go into a jewelry shop. This is for me for microphones.
Yeah, it's very alike, right? A lot of crown jewels, so to say.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's interesting about the headquarter, I guess. Neumann has historically always been Berlin, except for the period where there was the separation and where there was Gefell, basically the production site in Gefell. Yeah. And then Neumann was reestablished in Berlin, and there have been plenty of sites in Berlin.
Sure.
Most of them close to downtown, and this is where we are today. So if we look out the window in a second,
beautiful.
You can
saw the museum.
Yeah, it's a museum of communication. Yeah. I think it's a pretty nice spot. It's very open in a way, right? It's very classic in a way. It's very relevant. You can
gorgeous view.
You can
seeing all the sculpture.
Yeah, you can look down the Leipziger Straße to Potsdamer Platz, right? Something to take in, right?
Yeah.
It looks to me like a shot from a villain movie, like Ocean's 11 or something like that, right? Yeah. So, and we are in this building, and we have 3 stories to work with, and here in Berlin, that's the headquarters, but we have other sites as well, which look after development of monitor speakers, our KH line, which is further north, our microphone production, which is in the Hanover area. We have merging as a development and product hub. In Switzerland, and so this has become over time like the nucleus. But it's not everything is here, right? We are very management and very microphone focused, as you can see in the display here as well, right?
Yeah, of course I'm going to the classics.
Yeah. So this is a bit like a chronological setup. You can see the first mic that we have here is actually not a Neumann company mic, but a Neumann invention or development. The famous coal rice mic, right? And then the first mass-produced condenser mic, CMV3. So that's pretty well known, and you can see from the badge that's already an interesting talking point. I'd say it says Telefunken. It doesn't say Georg Neumann, even though it's a Georg Neumann product, because this particular unit has been distributed in the US originally, and Telefunken at the time was the US distributor, and they put the Telefunken badge on the product.
Right.
And it's now more relevant as a talking point than it was like 15 years ago, right? But that's the relationship how it was. Yeah. And then we go up. The U47.
I have one, yes.
Good for you. Yeah. And then the M49, which was also switchable, but remote switchable. This is a product that we've reissued a couple of years ago. Got a tech award for that, and it's doing really well. The M50, which is quite famous, right? The mic that has been used for developing the Decker tree.
They have a lot of these at Abbey Road.
Yeah. And what's interesting here already, and this is something that I like to talk about when looking at the vast choice in our, let's say, large diaphragm condenser mic portfolio, I'm thinking about those mics as permutations of 3 different layers, right? One layer is a capsule itself, which defines the sound. Then we have the head grill, which defines the sound. And then we have the electronics, let's say, scheme, whether it's tube-based or solid-state-based. And you can see that there's basically permutation of those three elements, which make different mics. Right? So the U47 and the M49, they share the capsule. They're both tube electronics. That's why they have the black badge. Right? The badge comes in different colors, and the black ones say it's tube-based. But they have a different head grill. Right? The M50 have the same electronics, the same head grill, but a different capsule.
I see.
The M50 has an omnidirectional small diaphragm capsule in a little sphere to mimic the directivity of a large diaphragm capsule.
Okay.
But it's an omni, basically, an omni with a slight increasing directivity at higher frequencies. But it looks fairly similar from the outside, right? But it's a different mic. Then when we go on, we see the U67, which has this famous body, right? It's like the desert island microphone for many. It shares the capsule with the U87, which is also well known, and the head grill, but not the electronics.
Because this is tube, obviously, and
this is a solid state transformer.
Now, in Germany, in Deutschland, do you say valve or tube?
We say in Deutsch, we say Röhre. Like cathode ray tube, like CRT, that's Röhrenmonitor. That's kind of where it stems from.
Okay.
Speaking about that technology, it's also interesting that there have been pencil mics in the 60s, tube-based, right? So that's basically the starting point for the KM A series and the KM 180 series that we have today. Yeah. So a lot of the microphone stuff that we do goes back a really long time. Yeah, and talking about permutations, and there's this U47 FET, which is kind of our take, or has been the take on U47 in more modern days with a different electronics. It's a FET-based electronics, not a tube-based electronics. So it has a different electronics, but same head grill, same capsule, right? And I think, I'm originally a speaker guy. So I had to dive into mics when I started joining Neumann. I've always been involved with recording and microphones, but not on that level, right? And so for me, it was extremely helpful to discover those three layers, and they helped me understand what's in the portfolio and why that is, right? Okay, so a simple dumb question. Yes. Black badge is tube, purple badge is solid state. Yes. What is red? Red is transformerless. Also solid state, but not a transformer balanced output. TLM, transformerless microphone. That's as if we would have prepared this, right? That's the first TLM that ever was. It's 41 years now. Yeah, so it's that old now? Yeah, it's as old as me. And this was basically... Still seems like a new product to me. Yeah, right. But the 170 is really famous, and it's used for brass, everything. It's softening a bit because it has a different capsule. I know at Abbey Road they have a lot of them, because when you're doing huge orchestra dates and you've got tons of timpani and stuff like that, you can get a real build-up of low end and low mids. So they use these. Okay, cool. Yeah. So that's been around for 40 years, and it's basically the foundation for the mics that came later. The really popular TLM 102s, 103s. This is basically the founding father of the TLM series. Another dumb question. What's the difference between an 89 and an 87? The capsule, basically. Okay. So this is a K89. We have a set of capsules, right? And slightly smaller capsule. Slightly smaller capsule. Also less coloration. Basically, more neutral. Those are those bigger than life mics, right? Really attenuating, really close, really big, and that's what they're loved for. And this is more like a more German, maybe in a way, right? So a bit more. We call it sometimes a decent one, right? And so there's multiple capsules that find their way into multiple mics, like the M149. It's from 1995. This has been basically a take on the M49 at the day that didn't exist anymore. The new one wasn't here yet. It's also tube-based. It's also switchable, not remote switchable, and has the same head grill, same capsule. So there's once you have that, that's the same here. And then there's versions like the TLM 193, which is just not switchable. I see. Right? So that has always been an idea to make those mics more approachable, more affordable. And because most people, 99% of the time, are only in cardioid. Right. Yeah. And also they can high pass Correct, elsewhere.
Elsewhere, yeah.
Elsewhere.
Yeah.
So that has been a motive always to maintain the sonic purity and the quality, but make those products more approachable and work for more people. Right?
Marvelous.
Yeah, cool. So one thing that I'm particularly proud of, because I've been involved with spatial audio in previous parts of my career, is that in 1973, Neumann was doing spatial audio with the dummy head, the original one. You can see that the design is less abstract than the current KU100. The legend is people got distracted by this being too human. So it has been redesigned, and there's now the KU100, but HRTFs and binaural recording, that's been a thing for Neumann. It's been a niche, let's say, in the last 20 years, but now it's really coming back with VR, AR.
We have one at our studio.
Yeah. It's really picking up.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting product. It's like ready-made, immersive recording, with not a lot of processing, with a really streamlined workflow. So that works for for a lot of people.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's also great for measuring.
Yeah, same here. So we have a couple of section views here. We can look into that later on when we go to R&D. And this is, as I mentioned, the TLMs, right? Miniaturized tube microphones, a TLM version of the 49, again, this permutation theme. Right, more affordable without the let's say the saturation and the color and the warmth of the tube. That's why it also has a red bag.
I've got to ask you a question very selfishly. Let's walk back, Eric.
Yes.
We didn't really talk about the KM series. I feel like the KM 53, 54, and 56 are some of the best made microphones ever. On violins and acoustic guitars and mandolins and stuff, they just bring things to life. And the Beatles, as I'm sure you know, even use them on guitar amps. Is there any plans to revisit those?
Not specifically the 50 series, but they're
legendary.
There's rumors on the 80 series. That you can get, like, there's mics like the KM84, which are really popular.
Sure.
So there's rumors on that. Do you see a relationship with the modern 180s at all, or do you feel that it's a different thing?
I feel like the KM, the original KMs, just have a sparkle. And of course, it's the tube, the valve. You just seem to do less when you come to mix.
Okay.
You do less. What is nice about these is they have a certain level of neutrality, so they take EQ really well. I mean, if I was to sort of surmise everything Neumann, it is the fact that when you get a Neumann mic, you can boost and cut frequencies, and you don't feel like, you can brighten a mic without having to do tons and tons of de-essing. We've done so many mic tests, and 47s and 87s, 67s always win because you can make them as bright as you like without getting all offensive and harsh. And that's definitely true of the 180. But the KM, the original KMs, just you kind of pull them up and you're like,
okay, done.
It's done.
Okay.
It's like magic. It's just like...
Yeah. It's interesting. Sometimes I feel that the mics that have been used in those recordings have shaped our expectation of how things sound when they're recorded. And then those mics, when they're being used, it just sits back into that. Like the U87 or U67, it's just like... It has been a filter to culture, into culture, and now that's what we are used to, right? Like stereophony, it's pretty obscure actually, and it works on headphones with no crosstalk, right? But it still works, but because we are trained, and when we started listening to headphones, we didn't question this as like teenagers or whenever that started. So it's an interesting relationship between the mics.
There's so many factors. We could go on a rabbit hole here. I think the thing about an 87, which is like, it's a big phrase, but I'm using it. It's an industry standard. Any major studio will have at least an 87 because it makes a statement of like, we're a professional studio.
Yeah, right.
The other thing is you go into like a classic studio that's been around since before 1960 when you made them. There's still the original microphone they bought 60 years ago. And I think that also really plays into it because you're gonna buy something that's just gonna last forever. There's so many things. There's the sound, but the build quality and everything is huge.
Cool.
Yeah,
it's great to hear that reflected from the market. We take extra care on that. Yeah. Also with we're gonna have a look at our servicing, the EMEA servicing, where they also restore mics and make sure that they are as pristine as when they left the factory, even like 50 years ago. So that's really close to our hearts. That's here. Yeah.
That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. So where do we get to? So we talked about the 180s, the KMS, I think.
You're right. So we branched out into, or Neumann branched out into live microphones. It's always, I speak as if I was here, right? We stand on the shoulders of giants, and this really...
You mean you didn't design
we didn't.
U47?
No, I
you weren't there at the time?
No, I had
in 1949?
I had my vacation that time of the year. So we branched out into live microphones, right? We've become a part of the Sennheiser group in like 1991, I believe.
Is it that long ago?
Yeah, it's that long ago. And but for us, it's now it's the reality, right? And they're really strong in live mics and a wireless system. So naturally, the acoustics and the design of the KMS, right, at one point went into wireless systems. And one of the more recent developments, I think from earlier this year, is that we've now opened the Neumann sound, Neumann capsules, also to users of non-Sennheiser wireless systems. Right. So that's been quite a big step for Neumann, for the brand, being part of the Sennheiser group. But it has been really well received. And our story was, why would we keep people from using their favorite tone and transducer just because the production chooses to use a different wireless system? And that's exactly how people responded when we told them about the story. So that's really cool.
So what's the DO1? That's the digital?
Right, yeah. The DO1 there has been a fully digital series of mics, small diaphragm, large diaphragm, handheld, by Neumann from 2003. So it's by now discontinued. It's an interesting talking point for me as I'm a product manager, right? Why has it been there? Why has it been performing the way it did? Why has it not been adopted? What do we learn from this? Is it possible to establish a new standard that is as popular as P48? Right, which is a standard which you find everywhere, because for those mics you needed to have special preamps. AS42, I believe, is the standard, and that's still around, right? But it's not widely adopted. So we have a track record in digital mics as well.
I mean, you probably know the answer. I mean, the thing is, most people using digital-only microphones are using USB microphones that just plug straight into their laptop.
Nowadays, yeah.
And so it's a difficult market to be a really high-end, because if you're really high-end digital, you're talking about people who've got racks of amazing converters and this is also loaded with like processing, so you could do compression and EQ. What about your outboard? What about your choice of gear, right? But on the other hand, there's customers that have dozens of those and they love it. They pull it up. There's no noise. It's easy to work with. Like people that do orchestra recordings regularly, broadcast stations, stuff like that. So there is a bucket in the market, and there's also a trend that's coming back again and again and asking about that, right? What about redundancy? So there's many nuts to crack, so to say. But we've been there, and we are always contemplating whether we should be there. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think of, just not to change the subject to another company, you remember when Studer made 18-bit converters? Everybody quickly moved to 24 bits. They sort of got a little bit left behind. But I know people that had those that they sound amazing because it's Studer. So they went in there, and that's the thing. It's like sometimes being first and being great. Yeah,
maybe it has been just too early. Maybe it has been the packaging or the productization was not perfect. There's just people that love it and that are really sad to see that it's not here anymore. Let's see what the future brings, right? And this, like, talking a bit more about the future. In the last decades, Neumann has been really known for microphones, right? Neumann microphones. And Neumann has not always been just a microphone company. There was a time where there was disc cutting lathes, and Neumann was actually the market leader globally for that technology. Like until, let's say, the late 80s. Neumann was involved with mixing desks. And that business was stopped, and this is now what Stage Tech has become. It's basically the branching off of that field of business and technology. So there was always a variety in technologies and an openness answering different fields. Like also Georg Neumann has been involved with a gas-tight battery patent, which is the foundation technology-wise for a lot of the batteries technology that we have today. So in that spirit, in that legacy, basically Neumann, the brand that was just microphones at the time, since the 90s, has branched out into different fields like studio monitors, as you know, right? The KH line of products as a heritage from Klein & Tummel has been introduced in 2012. We don't have any of the speakers here because we don't have the space. We've maxed out the capacity of this building. We got rid of all the demo corners. So it's all
We're
offices
happy to
now,
talk microphones.
right? So that's 2012. Then in 2019, we added headphones to the mix, right?
Eric's wearing a pair.
Yeah, right. And the H30s a couple of years later. So we've been monitoring and we've been input, basically, right? And as you know, merging has become part of the group 2 years ago, and now we're doing the middle part as well, right?
Right.
And one more...
I've got to ask you, we moved on, the broadcast microphone here, we didn't talk about that. What is that?
That's basically the Neumann take on a mic that does broadcast-ready sound. Right?
Okay, so it's a dynamic?
There's a dynamic version and there's a condenser version. This is the condenser version. The dynamic one has a green badge. The only dynamic Neumann mic, the only one with a green badge, actually, right? And they have insulation against structure-borne noise, built in. They have a pop filter built in. They have a really attractive form factor for a lot of radio presenters, and they're well adopted throughout the industry and also been here since more than 20 years now. So
amazing.
Yeah. So we've been talking about the modern days, right? And what has changed and what has improved. This is one of the products that I'm specifically proud of because it has opened a whole new chapter for Neumann.
I may or may not have already seen this.
Yes, and you may or may not.
With a very wonderful Mr. Moses Schneider.
Yes. And it's our MCM drum.
So we're allowed to talk about it?
Yeah. It's out since 2 years. It's our MCM system for picking up acoustic instruments.
Amazing.
It's system because it's modular, right? It's a system because it works with different instruments. Just choose the right clip and it works for, let's say, a violin or a piano or a guitar or a ukulele, like that ukulele if you want it with a smaller span. There's 9 clips right now that work for brass, that work for woodwinds, etc. We have those 3 here now. It's, as I said, it's a high quality microphone, very neutral in sound. That's why it works for so many instruments. And it's a standard. It comes with a cardioid capsule. It's a totally new development. It's using the same building principles as the KMs, right? It has a Neumann sound. I really love it. Most people that listen to it, comparing it with the, let's say, Legacy standard, are really happy that what it adds. It's road tough. It works on wireless transmitters because it's an electret, which is the first for Neumann as well, right? So you can...
You've never made electret before?
Right.
Wow.
And so it works with the Sennheiser transmitter, but every other brand as well. Comes with a variety of cables, which are detachable. Can also work with a normal XLR line when you're in a studio environment for miking up drums, miking up whatever you have, right? Pianos. I really like this because with this magnetic feed, you can put those into a piano, have 2 wireless transmitters, roll out the piano on stage, lift the lid, and you have perfect sound, right? My story is always...
And you don't have these huge mic stands all over the place.
And it looks nice, right? Yeah. And it's easy, and you don't have no cables to trip.
Now, obviously, a big application here is if you're a professional session player.
Yeah.
You turn up in the studio and you go, here you go, I'm ready to go. And you hand them... an XLR input.
Correct.
Output, and then they just, boom, off they go.
Correct. So this has made a really good impact to the market. We've gotten raving reviews. It's being used by orchestras, brass bands, and now it's more and more adopted also in, let's say, rock and pop production, like drums, right? It's really versatile.
Freedom as well. The freedom, because you know, so many, especially inexperienced acoustic guitar players come into the studio. And I like mic in multiple ways. I use a KM. I go on the bottom of the body, a large diaphragm. You come out like 12th or 14th fret. Trying to keep away from the sound hole. Now you can clip this on the acoustic guitar player, and if they decide they want to do this,
right.
You're not dealing with that.
And sometimes you need to do that if you solo saxophone, right? Or something like that.
Then what's the SPL?
154. I believe.
154.
Yeah, so it's meant to be on a lead trumpet in a big band and bam, kick, right? So it's not a worry that you clip that, right?
Yeah, 154 is great. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, and it's also one of the more affordable mics that we do.
How much is affordable?
629 euros MSRP for a full set with one clip.
Great. So it's a Neumann brand, yeah.
It's a Neumann brand. It's a Neumann sound.
Neumann sound.
First and foremost, yeah. But it's also practical and versatile, so that's nice. Cool.
I do like this idea of the violin player turning up to the session with their own miking setup, ready to go.
Or also, like this is especially for us has been a focal point next to the sound, and in general putting it into existence was the violin player pulling up to a live show, open air, right? You need mics. And you're already in, like, from a sound capturing, sound reinforcement perspective, you're already in a compromise because you can't have just your AB or whatever. You need to be close, right? You don't want to have the stands. Okay, so you're using a on-instrument situation or a solution. And competitive solutions, they have like a zip tie as a mechanism. So you do clack, 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 clack to get it really tight on the violin. And the violinist is really like, ooh. Painful for him to watch, right? And is it already nice so it doesn't move, or do you need one more click? Maybe one more click is too much, right? So that's why we opted for a different mechanism, which is spring-loaded. So we did dozens and dozens of tests to find the right strength for the spring to give you the fixation, but be soft to the instrument, right? And it exists in different scales for like double bass. This can be used for a cello also when you're coming from the side. So you have one hand operation, and basically Neumann is accepting the responsibility, right, of this being right. So you as a technician under pressure, miking up 14 violins, don't have to make the decision with every violin.
That's amazing.
So that's cool.
Very cool. And what's it called again?
MCM, miniature clip mic.
Miniature clip mic. I like that. Literal.
Yeah, right. It's like KM, Kleinmembran, small diaphragm. U for umschaltbar, switchable.
I never knew that.
So that's like the NDH, dynamic headphone, right? That's kind of the meaning. Like KMS is a klein, small, Kleinmembran, a small diaphragm stage. Right. Yeah, it could be KMB.
Stage. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of the idea that our names mean something. They're not just fancy acronyms.
Great.
Cool. And now what's also in addition to that is there's also now an Omni capsule, which probably you will use in your workshop as well. Let's see what comes out of that. So that's good for some applications. So we've looked at the past, we've looked at the product, like the Hall of Fame, the legends, right? Let's look at what else is happening here, right? Let's now check out a bit of the reality of it. Hi.
Hello.
So in this room, we have our firmware and software development. Microphones, firmware, software, you might wonder, right? This is basically the firmware that goes onto our DSP-based monitor speakers. And the software, predominantly, it's about MA1, our monitor alignment system, to dial in the speakers in the given space. And so that's also a cross-link between Berlin, which is predominantly microphones, and our development hub in Bissendorf, which does the electronics and acoustics and hardware of the speakers. So this office is really creating a huge benefit for the customer, right? Because it's adding modernity. It's adding the other side of Neumann that is not just tube circuitry and the past and 50 years ago, which is today and which is processing and which is unlocking the potential of those products, right? And this team is occupying our old demo space because the team grew over the last couple of years. Digital products, digital workflows have been added to our portfolio, and so this is what we do. And they don't have the view because they're afraid of the light, maybe, or the heat, right? Cool. Yeah, and maybe this is like this
so
shot.
they can sleep.
No, they're not. They don't really sleep. No. I wouldn't support that. No, but maybe you want to get a shot at this. This is really interesting.
What are you doing here?
Work in progress.
Warren.
Hi, go on. Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. We're creating the firmware, which is the software which runs inside the studio monitors, and which is then controlled by our app.
Nice.
And controls the hardware. That sounds quite simple, but
Yeah, there's a lot going on in a speaker. You do the crossover, you do the input switching, the calibration. That is individual to each speaker. So each speaker with its tolerances matches the target curve of the golden sample. That's all done by the DSP. So we get lower tolerances in production, like with our speakers, lower than you can do with analog EQ. We get thermally crossovers that are not affected by the temperature of the speaker, right? Usually in analog designs, you always have a shift of the filters when the resistance grows, when things get hot. We don't have that. We can push our speakers harder, like in a normal car. You can drive harder because you have ESP, which is fast and which has sensors. The same we can do with our speakers. So we have really advanced limiting. That's why we can get more SPL out of a smaller box. So you can have more SPL with a lower investment as a customer, right? A 5¼ inch go as loud as 2 iterations ago, the 6½ inch as an example, because of that technology. And that's all developed here, right?
And still have that low distortion and everything, of course. And, you know, and sometimes we were asked if you have to match pairs or something, but we don't need that because they're factory calibrated. So they're the same. So
basically, all speakers are matched pairs with each other.
That was always the philosophy on the 87, wasn't it?
Yeah,
you didn't sell them as matched pairs. You just did consecutive serial numbers.
But the interesting thing is that here you have multiple drivers, right? And the products that we do have a lower tolerance than the individual parts. Something that you wouldn't expect. Like you say, okay, the woofer has like plus minus 0.5 dB at the roll off, right? And the treater and the amplifier as well. But now with being able to digitally control all those parameters, or not control, but balance and counteract all those parameters, we can make speakers which are really matched pairs, which is relevant and immersive as well. When you're mixing speakers and you're buying maybe your surrounds 2 years later and you're sealing 4 years later, and they still have all the same tonality, basically the same story as in U87.
Great. We did a massive shootout of sort of $300 to like $1,200 speakers, $300, $1,200. I promised I wouldn't have an opinion on the video because we just did it and we just played music through it and used the KU100.
Okay,
and
nice.
we had a pair of mics as well, measurement mics.
Yeah.
They were very popular.
Good.
I think you're in a very unusual place.
That's a really nice way to put it.
Well, because you sound like a more expensive speaker. You're at 1,200. You're sort of, I think it's 1,200 US
for the pair.
Yeah. And so you sound significantly better than anything at 1,800. But then the next step up is like 2,500. So you're like, you're just sort of like, you're pretty much the only people in that space, in that price range.
I mean, we do have now a 6½ inch two-way. I like the KH150s, which you see over here. I mean, that's not product presentation, that's a lab, right? So this is a really popular size, but it also scales in investment, obviously, right? So what's interesting that those KH80s, the smallest, most affordable one, delivers a lot of power and low end, as you said, and it leans itself for many applications. So we have people coming in like, what do I need? Like, what's your listening distance? What's your content? What are your SPL requirements? So you can go with those, and they still use by those because there's a lot of emotions and social elements also when choosing a monitor. Yeah,
if you close your eyes, you think that you're hearing speakers this size.
But if you hear those, you start looking for a subwoofer. Not because it's like loud or anything, but just because of the extension and the control. Yeah.
How much are these a pair?
$3,000 roughly.
Okay.
And there's an in-between size, the 122, which also is in between in price. So it's like a 4-inch, a 5¼ inch, and 6½ inch, which is our two-way portfolio. And then we have two products with 3-way speakers, like the 310s, which are on the side. Any 310s here? No. Because they are analog designs. That's why they don't exist in this room.
Right.
And then the 420s, which is our midfield 3-way speaker.
Right. Yeah. Great.
Cool. But we're here to talk about microphones, right? Thanks for
Thank you very much.
Letting us in.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Next thing is changing the floor. This is actually now one of the main office spaces that we have, which is not as populated because of summer. Yep. So we have R&D management, project management, product management. This is actually where I sit. A bit of sales ops and marketing people. We have more marketing, content creation over here. and we have a beautiful terrace.
Ah, yeah, this is lovely. This feels like London.
Yeah.
You know, London, when you go on the terraces, you see all the rooms. Yeah,
and you don't see the Berlin TV tower. You do see here.
Yeah.
So that's really nice. This is a place that
What's the cathedral there?
That's one of the two cathedrals at Gendarmenmarkt, where there's the German and the French cathedral. Yeah. We've been arguing whether it's the German or the French.
Well, it's in Germany, so it's German.
Yeah. It's one of the two cathedrals at Gendarmenmarkt, where there also the Konzerthaus is, which is within walking distance. We have Friedrichstadtpalast, which is the biggest stage in Europe, within walking distance, if you're fit.
Where's Funkhausen from here?
That's pretty far out. The Nalepa Straße, the old GDR Funkhaus, that's east. That's this direction.
Yeah.
But it's like 15 kilometers out, or 12.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
We've never done a tour of that.
Oh, you should do that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you know anybody at Funkhausen?
Yes.
Okay. Poor old Boris is like...
Funkhaus is crazy.
Oh, the photos are beautiful.
It's like you've never been in a church and you're in 16th chapel then. It's like...
Yeah.
Like the reverb chambers, which still have the marking for the... It's like a museum and everything.
We'd fly out for a few days just to do that. I think
cool.
Yeah. This is beautiful.
Yeah, so we have some events here from time to time.
Yeah.
We love to have our outside meetings.
He doesn't like heights, so he doesn't want to get too close.
Yeah, but you can see it's an interesting area also for an acoustics developer, right? This is a hotel. This is residential buildings. This is.
That's amazing. What?
Yeah, I've never tried that. No, we're basically for us this is not a creative space. This is more a threat, right? With the lorries going down the street, the vibration in the building, the noise floor in general. So that's why we've done some extra measures for R&D that they can actually work here, right? So it's nice and representative. It's good to be here, but it's also a challenge. But we embrace that.
Really? I mean, the whole time we've been here, maybe an hour or so, I've not heard any.
No, but if you're sitting on your desk and the lorry goes by, your whole desk shakes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I see a big lorry down there. Oh, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean we're in a minute space, in a really, let's say, a detailed perspective on things, right? So when we do noise measurements, when we don't want to do compromised measurements, stuff like that. So that's why it's relevant.
I understand what you're saying. You're saying for the very high level stuff you're doing, even that subtle, tiny noise.
Correct.
But for us, we'd put up an acoustic guitar and wouldn't care.
Yeah, right. And you have a low cut.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is the space. We can't film in that. Because it's the electronics development department for the microphones.
Okay.
But if you like, we can have a short glimpse without the camera, and you can have a glimpse from outside.
Top secret.
So now we're entering the R&D section, R&D and service section. After you.
Dankeschön.
It all starts with the logistics, right? Getting product in, product out of service.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, meet Majid, our head of service and quality assurance, Warren Ewart. So
thank you. Nice to meet you too.
We won't hold you.
Yeah,
we won't hold you too long. I will cover your service part very thoroughly.
Yeah.
Okay. You can trust in me.
Thank you.
Cool. So. We're going to basically look at a bit of the way that we develop the microphone products, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to start again a bit with the history and the dissecting of the product, right? So we have a bit of presentation here to look into the mics, right? To look at the different capsule types, to look how the mics are put together. There's a solution D mic here where you see there's a microprocessor inside, which is totally different from all the other mics, right? You can see the differences in the similarities in how those mics are being constructed. The U47, the U47 FET, sharing the same capsules, sharing the same head grill. And what's particularly interesting is this is actual drilling jigs for drilling the holes into the capsule.
Oh, wow.
Right, from the past, I have to say. Right, so this has been used for different types of capsules with different hole patterns. And what's interesting and makes it even more challenging, if you want to shoot this section view, some of those holes are through holes, and some of them are wie sagt man? Sinkholes, ja, danke. Sinkholes. And like, how do you make sure you get the right depth and everything? This was done manually. Obviously, today this drilling is very controlled, very right?
Precise.
But when you think about it, we say like the consistency of the capsule production was so great also back in the day. So how did they do it? Right? How did they like manually get to that same to that consistency basically? Because it's like usually say to build one good capsule is not really that hard because things are understood to some extent. But to do hundreds and thousands that are consistent, that's really the magic, right? So it's just interesting how people have been putting this out decades ago, right? Then you see the KU100, like this is the current product.
Yep.
And also even though this product has been out, this TLM 107, this has been one of the more modern takes on large diaphragm condensers. It's a really interesting product because it uses a capsule that is glued, not screwed, right? Usually most of our capsules have a ring of screws around to tighten the membrane. This is a new capsule. This also started a new design language for Neumann. If you see that, right? And back in the day, we've done some like how big should it be, what surface should it have, things that are very normal nowadays. It has not been that normal back in the day. Let's check out the development office, which maybe is just an office, right? Yeah. But it's like the microphone development office. And
hi there, I'm Warren.
Hello, Jörgi.
Jörgi, nice to meet you.
Nice shirt.
Oh, yeah.
You had to check, like, what am I wearing?
So Georgi is our lead for the acoustics and mechanics engineering for microphone development.
Okay.
So he's overseeing what's happening.
In this room, basically, we're developing microphones, except electronics. However, we're also dealing with electronics quite
so capsules.
Close together, yeah. So we develop capsules, also all the mechanics, all the microacoustics in the grill, or everything concerning pop filters, and so everything except electronics is done in this room. So here we have a couple of, two mechanic engineers, two acousticians, and usually one more working student who is working here. So we usually start with some simulations. So I put nice.
Oh no, this is fun.
Yeah, it's fun. This is how membrane of the small diaphragm microphone behaves on high frequencies. So it's basically breaking like a speaker. So and depending on the holes and stuff. So this is
what does the red to the blue represent?
This is in millimeters deflection of the membrane.
Okay.
So that's at 10 kilohertz. Yeah. Huh?
Like excursion.
Yeah, excursion. So this is how membrane, so it doesn't work like a piston. At high frequencies, it actually breaks. And this is interesting pattern, which depends on many parameters. So with simulation, we could fine tune if we need something in high end to get more smooth or more high frequency response.
What is your preferred membranes these days?
You mean material?
Yeah, material, yeah.
I mean, we use Mylar, and this is very durable and nice material.
Mylar, right.
Yeah, there are many.
Because the old ones, obviously, with the PVC, which breaks down.
Yeah, it just breaks down. So in my experience, I don't see any benefits of. It's more this. We have around Neumann many the stories about this thing is better before it was better like this and this.
Yeah.
So we actually trying to deeply study all this. Let's say myths. Some of them are not myths. Some of them are myths. To see what actually is acting on the sound and how it's acting. To be able sometimes to recreate something from the old times, sometimes to just fine-tune in terms of production some parameters to be able to be super consistent. Yeah.
Yes, well, the PVC is interesting, isn't it? We've done so many different tests. When we were in the plant in Sausalito, we lined up 6 U47s, all basically the same age within a year or two. And it was like listening to 6 completely different microphones. So when somebody says, it sounds like a U47, you're like, which one? You know, these are 70-year-old microphones with PVC capsules.
First, they should work. This is already challenging.
They all worked, They all sounded good, but different versions of good.
We had quite many funny capsules with many cracks with PVC. So this is usually what's happening. So it's not really reliable material.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it doesn't behave like this.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is is it CM7? What is the name of the capsule from that you use in?
The PVC is an M7.
M7,
M7, sorry,
yeah.
yes. I don't know why.
But we're not using M7s in our products today.
Not even with Mylar?
No. We basically we have K47 capsule, which is basically same capsule except of the way how membrane is attached.
Okay.
It uses a ring instead of like a K.
Yep.
So this is 67.
Okay.
So similar ring with same gold spattered area, but however different electrodes. So this is different capsule. Beautiful. So this gives quite consistent result and doesn't have really any downfalls to the glued one. Here we could, for example, measure membrane tension, and if it's a little bit out of specs, we could little bit tune it and get really consistent result. Okay. With glued on membrane, it is quite tricky to make it homogeneous, to make it the right tension. Yeah, so it's basically you cannot rework.
So what's your philosophy in grills? Because obviously in a ribbon microphone, they sometimes use quite aggressive grills because that makes them brighter because the ribbons are obviously quite dark. What's your philosophy in a condenser? Like with the grill, the material, the shapes, because this obviously can affect it quite dramatically, can't it? Yeah,
definitely. So when we design microphone, we consider whole parameters, how they affect the frequency response and so on. So if the capsule is, for example, too bright, so we are able to put some pop filters in and a little bit reduce higher frequencies or get nicer stuff that you will have less plosives and so on. Sometimes there could be some resonances in the grill. So this is really complex thing, how to design all the things around the capsule, because they could cause this strange things on higher frequencies where you will have all these reflections. And then bad impulse response and also some resonances in the frequency response. So in this room, we also do some, so basically whole mechanic and acoustical design, which involves simulations, not only the capsules, but also, for example, mechanical simulation of the shock mounts, especially. Not only shock mount, but let's say handling noise of the stage microphones. So everything we could measure materials, put them into model, and fine-tune the, let's say, the design. So then we making some 3D prints to look at the design, how it could be assembled, and really fine-tune all the small details. Also here we have quite nice archive of really old things. Let's say. So this
it's a library as well.
CMV3. Ooh.
Yes. So
how far back does this go?
I think, Boris, you know the right number, yeah? It was 30 something, 20 something, yeah. Let's say we have all these original drawings with M7 and stuff, and sometimes it is hand drawn microphones. So this beautiful. So it's really piece of story. So yeah, K66, you see some.
I love this. My father was a painter and a graphic designer, so always stuff like this. I remember this graph paper all over the place.
Then we go to the capsule room.
It's a smaller room, so I'll stay out.
As long as Eric can get in there. Walk this way, Eric.
So this small room is where we assemble capsules. So it has some equipment to get capsules together. Also, we have here the climate chamber where we could test our capsules and electronics in terms of noise and how stable is membrane tension, how stable is lacquering, and so on. So we could also plug some stuff from external and see how it behaves in different conditions, weather conditions, let's say, to simulate on design stage to really fine-tune all these parameters, because our microphones should be very robust and sometimes are used in very extreme conditions. So we should be ready for that. So a couple of microscope and some stuff. So quite small room, but this is basically where we assemble our prototype capsules.
So when you think about the significance of this room, it's really interesting that it's so modest, right? And it's not like, but it's the birthplace of every new capsule. Like the MCM capsule is one of the more recent capsules that have been developed, has been developed here, and the first iterations have been put together here in this room, right? So I really think that's impressive from the outside when you think about a brand like Neumann, and how then reality is sometimes so straightforward and modest, right? So
yeah, of course, assembly line looks much different. We have clean rooms with high clean conditions, and everything is. Yeah.
But you do know the recording engineer inside of me wants to know what that preamp is. Yeah. What's that preamp there? At first thing I walked in, I was like, "Whoa, what's that?"
Yeah, it's an audio precision, I guess.
No, this is audio precision.
Yeah.
And this
I'm talking about this. Yeah.
This is a live product, right? A live Neumann the V402.
Phantom pad, phase, half pass filter. Yeah. Do you still make these?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah. The idea is to have a preamp that has no own character, so it's made to be very, very neutral.
I like this a lot.
Yeah, V402 is the product name. Yeah.
So why do I not know this?
It's best for measurements, let's say.
It's one of the best kept secrets in the industry, I would say.
Well, hopefully no longer a secret.
Yeah,
I walked in, of course, it was the first thing as the recording engineer was like, preamp, Neumann.
Yeah.
No, this is incredible. So you put all the capsules through their paces to make sure that
definitely. It's also connected to the capsules which we already have, the old capsules, because large part of what we are doing is maintenance.
Right.
And sometimes there is old lacquer is not available. We have to find the replacement, old materials not, or we change the process, and we have to be sure that it's guaranteed the same results or even better results than it was given before.
Yeah, and
excellent.
This clean room comment was also interesting to me, because we talked about it's relatively easy to make one good capsule, right? And then we know how to do it. But the challenge is to do it thousands of times, and this is why obviously production has different environments, right? It's very standardized, very high tech, very clean room. But it's interesting that you need to get the recipe first, right? And then you can replicate it. And it's a whole different game, different challenge, a different job to do.
So here's more creative mess happening.
But, in typical German fashion, your idea of mess is our idea of really clean.
Okay. Cool. So we talked about the capsule now. We talked about the methods, right? Yeah. And the thinking. So let's go to the next stage.
So now I will show you our workshop. So unfortunately, our mechanic today is not here, but this is basically where all the prototypes, all the mechanic prototypes and all the capsules first built are done. Of course, some things we cannot do here, like put electret player or something for electret microphones. But let's say even for these electret microphones, first prototypes, which were real condenser, they were made fully here. So everything...
Good old-fashioned milling machine, and it's amazing.
Yeah, but it's possible to get really high precision, like to 1 micrometer on these ones.
Wow.
So our mechanic is super skilled and can basically, it's not the person only who doing the, let's say, getting from the drawing to the part. We basically designing with him the things because he knows the process and how easily to make these things and how we will get to more higher precision. So this is really magic place, I would say.
He must be a very, very skilled person. How long has he been with the company?
I think more than 20 years, 20 something, if I'm not mistaken.
I love all of these in brass.
Yeah, so these are, this is basically how prototypes works. Yeah, so 102.
Yeah.
Here, of course, nice and shiny M49.
It's beautiful in brass.
Yes. Unfortunately, you cannot release it like that.
Oh, it's a shame.
Yeah, and of course, even some strange things. So now I think we will move to our lab. So here, all the measurement equipment that we have is located in this room, and of course, anechoic chamber. This is our anechoic chamber.
Boris is going to lock us in.
So here, we use this chamber, immediately crazy, you can hear that something changed. You don't have much of diffuse sound. If I speak to the corner, you probably don't hear me too well.
Barely, yeah.
So sometimes when we're mounting something here, and person just turns away and saying something, we're like, please, can you turn your head to me and say it again?
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy how directional it is. Unfortunately, we don't have any way of recording binaural or even stereo, but in an anechoic chamber, I mean, it's like you know exactly where the sound's coming from. It's like there's no reflected sound, so you think, oh, did it come from there?
Yeah, of course, this is
amazing.
Of course, there are much bigger chambers in the world, but this is enough for development, and also it's heavily used for the service. So all the microphones which go to the service has final test here. So what we have here, we have a speaker, we have a rotation table, which is operated automatically from the control computer. And here we could measure polar patterns and frequency response from different positions.
Has it been used recently for a 47 that's been repaired or something? It looks like it's got a 47.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, yeah.
There was U47 here just recently. So we have many adapters for U47 and many different other adapters. Like for handheld microphones. So many different adapters for clip-on mics, MCM, some adapters. Also the stereo adapter for U69. So here with this distance we are kind of simulating the far field, which is of course not very far, but let's say in some frequency range we are able to measure. It's like in far field. If we want to go to the lower frequencies, we're using some other rooms which are bigger. Okay. Or we're using the pressure tubes if we want to measure very low frequencies. But this is a really great place for development and service, I think.
Great. Yep. Hence the 47. So it's been repaired, and they come in here and check it and make sure it's performing properly.
Yeah, I think you will see more in service.
Okay, stuff. I'm excited. I'm very excited to see that.
How they really measure all this old equipment.
Yeah. Eric, so we'll just leave you in here overnight, yeah?
Hi, guys. See how long I last.
This is it. If you've got any kind of tinnitus, this is probably not a nice place to be. Yeah. Because it will start. You'll start hearing.
Maybe worth to mention. So we also measure the near field response with this artificial mouse. Yeah, we have a couple of them. So with this like emulation of the mouse, where the center of the, let's say, sound emission is somewhere in front here, and we could really get measurement like the person would think.
Right.
So and see how the proximity effect works. So we really spend a lot of time on looking on not only the far field measurements, but how it relates to the near field.
That's a really smart idea. I know a lot of people that do microphone measurements to test microphones, but that is smart because it is more like a mouth. I've seen the ones where people are taking speakers and tweeters, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You need that.
Yeah. So of course this is a small speaker, and we are not able to go very low.
Right.
But let's say 60 hertz, we are able to get, let's say, some signal from there. Okay. It's also the problem of the room, because with this size of the room, we cannot go below, let's say, 100 hertz. We can go a little bit, but then there is, you start to see modes in the room.
Right.
So we still can do some comparative measurements in this range, but to do some absolute measurements, we should go to another place.
Okay.
Or use another method.
Right. Incredible. The view again.
Yeah, the view is really nice here. So we have a couple more measurement devices. For example, this we call in German Rauschpump, which is noise insulation place, let's say. So if we put microphone in, it's not only insulated from the pressure outside, it's also insulated mechanically. So you can see these things. So that when building shakes, we don't pick up much.
This is for your trucks, yeah? Yeah. The trucks that bother you.
Or insulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually have here quite a lot of noise sources outside from the street. There is metro, there is S-Bahn, not so far, and also trucks. So sometimes you can feel that whole building vibrates even without any measurements. Yeah, so basically here we could connect. This is the true Neumann preamp.
Yep.
Through preamp.
Is that Neumann EQ next to it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, we have something like 110 dB of amplification, and then we can measure A-weighted or RMS signal. Yeah, you can basically. Here's it. So if you will walk, you will already see it on the meter. So sometimes if you want to perform even more silent measurement, we can put whole device inside of the room.
Chamber,
yes,
yeah.
This would be even better. So now what we see is the noise of the TLM103, which is super low noise, and so there are a couple of sources of noise.
Yep.
This is actually only fancy switch.
Yeah, I was wondering why there's a switch on the front there.
But we didn't have any other housing for the switch. So.
yeah, we have too many of these spares. Is that what you're trying to say? No. So what's interesting? So even though it's inside of all of this, because you've got 110 dB of gain, you're still picking up stuff because there's so much gain on it. Wow.
Yeah, sure. So there are a couple of sources of noise. One is electronic, and another is just the thermal motion of the particles near the capsule. So one you can reduce, electronics. Another one is basically defined by your sensitivity and sizes of the capsule. So here with 103, these two sources are almost equal. So basically, if you will make electronics even more silent, you can go only 3 dB lower the noise. So it's almost the minimal noise you can achieve with the microphone of this size.
And how big is the capsule on the 103?
How big? It's the same as 32, I think, from heart. So it's same as basically it's a half of K67 or 87 capsule. A little bit modified half, and only what is different is backside. So there is no membrane. There is only specially designed acoustic filter, I would say, with some holes and slits. So, but it's the same size, same membrane attachment. Only backside is the different, and some little bit hole distribution to adjust frequency response and so on to these changes. So here we have our wind machine.
Oh,
so you can see a big kind of propeller.
yeah.
Inside. So it generates steady flux of the air, and with this device we are able to consistently make measurements of the pop filters, of windshields, and so on. This is a device which generates impulses. Actually, this is just spark discharge, which generates short impulses of very high intensity. So now the solenoid will charge, and so you can see. So they're quite reproducible. And so this device is helping us to measure the impulse response of the microphone. So it's not really, of course, these impulses have some spectrum. So it's not absolute measurement of the impulse response. But what we could look when we're doing this measurement is if microphone has some reflections in the basket or resonance of the capsule, if we have some beating somewhere. So this is where this kind of device is very handy.
I imagine you could also just test the transient response to see just how fast it is.
Yeah, of course. You can see the by the slope you can estimate the highest frequency basically, or this thing, and also you can see some beating. So this we're usually trying to get rid of. But what I want to say, this is not.
But also comparative.
Definitely.
You could put in like 4 or 5 mics to make sure they're all reading the same. And
Yes. In all the developments, we're using this device.
In manufacturing, are you testing mics in similar ways? You know, just like every couple of hundred, pull one out, make sure it, you know.
In manufacturing, we have really many tests, starting from mechanical tests, like each capsule part is getting measured after many processes. Then everything concerning membrane also measured a couple of times. And of course, we have final acoustic test, where there is a room a bit smaller than this one. We have reference curve and each microphone getting sweep from a couple of positions to be sure that polar pattern and frequency response is exactly as we design it. And also each microphone goes through the noise test. So with like increased humidity to get the environment when it will be used. So this is another device which generates low frequency 5 Hertz oscillations. It's like
5 Hertz.
It's basically pop filter tester. So it's giving you some air flux like we would have some plosives. Yeah. So this is also a device where we could test our grill designs, pop filters, and
I see.
so on.
Now we've basically covered the R&D, initial prototype building, prototype assembly, and prototype evaluation. Let's imagine there's now regular production and people are happy and receiving their mics and doing their work. Now, what about the people that want something special?
Oh.
Right? So that's what we're going to do.
Custom?
Yeah, custom.
Okay.
Yeah. We call that MTO, made to order. It's basically people.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
You didn't?
No, I didn't know there was any made to
then
order.
we need to improve our marketing on that.
Yeah,
No,
you do.
but this is just a few examples of what we're able to offer. Our concept is basically the acoustics, the audio performance of the product is untouched, but the appearance, the aesthetics can be altered. Right? You can see there's golden versions, there's glossy black versions of TL103s, there's glossy silver and gold color KMSs, and there's all shades of different finishes, matte or shiny. There's jewelry. There's also now, we are particularly proud of that, the Music Producers Guild Award is now an M49 enclosure in chrome. Right, on the side.
That's very beautiful.
So
bigger and bold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the idea is just if somebody needs something for corporate identity or for, let's say, having an engraving for your studio, you don't have to do the label. We can do that for you, and we can do that from production lot size 1 to as many as you like, right? And that's also actually related to our service offering we talked about before. Longevity of mics, consistency of multiple mics, even though they're long living and super robust and we take good care of that, there's mics that break, there's electronics that breaks. And for the EMEA region, so mainly Europe, microphones, headphones, and MT48 is getting serviced here. Right, we have different service hubs all over the world with qualified technicians, but the one for Europe is in this very building, and we're going to check that out now. So, hallo, wir kommen mal zu euch rein, okay? Cool. So this is our service department in Berlin.
Hi there.
This is Warren. You might know him from media outlets.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi there.
So in this room, there's 3 technicians. It's young and relatively young guys, which I find is interesting, that are keeping those legends alive. Right? They do service for, let's say, the KM105 has an issue, but also everything that we made after World War II is being serviced here.
Oh.
Right? So they look after the region of EMEA, but they also look into all the special cases. Those guys look into all the special cases. If, let's say, Abbey Road or some famous studio wants something restored, we do those restorations here. We are building the product up to original spec. We still have historic, no, it's over here, historic spare parts from original stock, like this KM, right? That's original. Yeah, so that's all here, right? So we are in a position to really keep products alive, make them ready for the next 60 years, and make them perform as they are intended to perform, because we're also measuring all the products in the anechoic chamber, right? So that's kind of our outgoing quality inspection. And so when you have a mic that needs somebody to look after it, maybe just a cleaning, this is a spot where to go, right? And if you have something, if you have a problem, if you have an idea, if you have a customization that you like, just reach out to us on our website, and we can get it going, right? So that's
nice.
Really cool. And I really think it's interesting that this is the young guys keeping the old stuff alive, right?
I think it's great, but I think we're all, if you're an engineer, you get passionate about the origins and the history.
Yeah, definitely.
And Neumann has the greatest legacy in microphones.
Right, and speaking of which, you've seen that we've had this is some relics from the past, basically, but they're still in use, right? Yeah. This is from the previous Neumann mixing consoles, those modules that we're basically using for measurement purposes, for modeling purposes, for making sure those power supplies perform right. There's also U67s, customer goods, probably from Asia, right? Looks a bit like an Asian sign. And that's all happening here. I think that's quite remarkable. Downtown Berlin.
I agree. Love it. What are you working on?
U47, an old part from 1952, I think.
So one of the first 3 years they were made. That's amazing.
Yeah. So now we checked the tube. If we are not longer available for spare parts. So if they work or some humidity, noise or anything.
What was wrong? Somebody had modified it?
No, the biggest problem, or the big problem is that the capsule is damaged. It's a golden layer. So.
Oh, I see. It's worn.
Yeah. So maybe on this side you see it better.
Yeah.
So that's a big different, the big difficult problem.
Yeah.
And now we have to check all the amplifiers. The voltages are okay. There are something problems too or not. So that is what I do now.
Did you go inside and see if the PVC is still? You clean that or?
No. Yeah. When the golden layer is okay, then we can clean the capsule.
Okay.
But on this part it's damaged, so we have to change the complete capsule.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
We have one stocked capsule with the same parameters. So
would it be a new capsule with Mylar or NOS?
K49 capsule from the M49 or M149.
Okay.
So it's not a PVC capsule, but it's a capsule that we're using for that type of product since some decades already. Yeah. Which is also in the M49. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's beautiful. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can see again. Thanks a lot, Fabian. You can see again that this is the same set of measurements that we're using to get this consistency. You see this V402, this preamp again, right? You see the oscilloscope, you see the audio precision. So that's all kind of the tool set that you need to assess the performance of the microphone, of the electronics. Yeah, and it's the same procedure on all those workplaces, basically. Yeah. So, because this is what we're all about. It's about the consistency, and it's about preserving the value. It's preserving the brand. Basically, we all here, we stand on, we profit from what has been in the past, right? As a brand, as people, as human beings, as artists, right? And that's why we take extra care to preserve that and not to blemish that. And that's what's motivating us. Just to keep on the good work, right? Okay, and then there's one more thing that I was asked to talk about, because you didn't know that MTO existed, right?
No, I didn't know
and you
that.
didn't know that the V402 existed.
No.
And many people don't know that the monitors exist. Also something that we're doing with the service. We at NAM, we talked to a long-term acquaintance, some guy we knew from a long time, and he asked us, like, how do I do service for a Neumann microphone? And it was really remarkable to us, because for us it's obvious that there's people that are knowledgeable and skilled and they're working on the most complex stuff, and he didn't know. So I want to put the word out that when you're having an issue, reach out to us. We can get you going. And we also.
I wrote to you guys years ago, and you wrote back immediately and told me how old my mic was.
Yeah. That's something that frequently people have, like, this is my serial number. I want to know the history. And speaking of that, this is like a service book in a car. That's a similar idea. You get a microphone certificate.
Date of birth.
Yeah, when you buy something in the high-end range, like an M49 or an
nice.
Similar, right? And now I cannot spill the beans, so that's why I was stumbling a bit. You get this, and then you get everything that has been done in the life of the product is documented here. And we also have 2 years of warranty on the service, even for 40-year-old products. And this is something that most people don't allow for. And or
even 70-plus year products.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So this is something that really illustrates the value of what we're doing here. We're taking that serious, and so should everybody that has a Neumann mic and a different Neumann product.
Wonderful.
Cool.
Stefan, thank you ever so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming by, spending your time.
Mauer, yes?
Mauer, yeah.
Mauer, okay.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun. And we want to come back. He did say on camera, we want to come back, first of all, to Hanover and see all the manufacturing.
Yeah.
And of course, we'd love to go to see merging.
Great.
Over in
and when you're in Hanover, let's stop by the speaker development as well.
That would be amazing.
It's also very interesting. Yep. Different kind of breed.
Incredible. Great. Thank you for having us. Thanks everyone. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, adios, goodbye. Tschüss.
Tschüss.